Stephanie Bravery here. Welcome back to another episode of the Bringing Her Hope podcast. So glad you guys are here. Also wanted to introduce you and reintroduce you to my friend Lindsey Cooper. She is a return guest and she brought her husband on the show with us today. So thanks for being with us, guys. We appreciate it.
Of course. We're excited.
Love it. Why don't you share a little bit with our viewers and our listeners about who you guys are?
Well, as you said, I'm Lindsay. This is Dusty. We have been married for almost 17 years. We have 3 kids, a 16-year-old son, almost 11-year-old daughter, and then a 4-year-old son. We together own 2 businesses, a dance studio, Identity Dance Company, and then event and party planning business called Identity Events and Entertainment. So we are extremely busy with 3 kids and schedules and things like that, but we have a lot of fun with what God has called us to do in our life. Do you have anything to add to that?
You killed it.
Okay.
You killed it. You're good. I love it. So those of you that have been listening or watching Bring Your Hope podcast for a while, you know that Lindsay is a return guest from season 2, episode 3, which feels like forever ago.
I know.
She shared her story of what it was like to be human sex trafficked. And so will you give us just a little background? I know they can go back and listen to that episode.
Yeah.
We have so much more to talk about today that I'm excited to talk about navigating love, even after trauma and what that looks like. But Lindsay, tell me just a little bit about what your story looked like.
Oh, sure. So when I was about 21 years old, I found myself in a situation where I was just really lost and broken. I had left a lot of my passions behind. I was dancing, but I had kind of walked away from that just from multiple rejections and just really struggling finding who I was, and had made some poor decisions along the way, just getting really wrapped up in the wrong crowd, and really just trying to search for myself in all the wrong places. And I ended up finding myself offered a job that I thought was completely legitimate. And at first it was, but as the days went on and the weeks went by, I realized that I had been groomed and hired to be this man's personal, like prostitute, if you will. And just the realization of that, realization in the middle of it, that there was really no getting out of it. There was no option for me to just leave. So it was kind of scary, as you can imagine, and just really, in a sense, traumatizing as far as the way you view yourself and the way you view the way people treat you, and also just feeling isolated, alone. And all the while he was convincing me and manipulating me that this was some sort of relationship that him and I were in. And it was very skewed and sickening. And I suffered a lot of verbal, emotional, and sexual, physical abuse.
So I know we're not going to tell the whole story, but you were able to get out of that situation. You guys have to listen to this episode. It was a miracle way that God just opened up the door for you to be released from that situation. So grateful for that. But what did life look like? And that's kind of why we're taking you both on this journey with us. What has life looked like after that? How did, when you talked about identity and you weren't sure really who you were and what everybody else was saying about you, what did it look like to transition out of that lifestyle or that situation into a relationship and then a marriage?
Yeah. So upon returning, I didn't, even though I'm talking about it now as if I knew what was going on, I really had no idea what was going on until much later. So when I returned home, I think I just tried to do life as normal. I tried to get a job. I just tried to live, knowing that I definitely thought that what had happened was weird, but I didn't realize the severity of it, like how it had impacted me. So, the next several years until I met Dusty were not pretty and very much in and out of, I was raised a Christian. So I tried going back to church, and, you just that kind of thing, and that's a whole nother conversation, but it doesn't fix everything. It definitely helps, but the severity of what I had suffered, I wasn't just going to be able to cover it up.
Yeah.
And so then I really didn't know who to talk to, how to even bring it up, but I definitely tried to just find myself again. But I continued, I reignited my passion for dance, and I got into dance, and tried to hold down some jobs, worked for my dad for a while, which was great. And then had an opportunity to become a nanny and was responsible for other people's children. So that really helped me grow as a person. And then really just kind of out of the blue, to me out of the blue, but not to God, met Dusty. And it was from the get-go, it was just so different than what I experienced, because in the years after this situation, so from about 21 and a half to 25, I basically viewed men as like I was using them and they were using me. And it was like a mutual skewed relationship like that. Yeah. And all the while, I think deep down, I just wanted something like real. And when I met him, it was like, he just wanted to be my friend, which threw me completely off. I was used to guys coming after me pretty hardcore from the get-go, not because they wanted me, but because they wanted sex. And for him, it took me by surprise because he didn't do that. Yeah. And I almost thought, well, what's wrong with me? Like, what's wrong? But then I realized after the fact, it's just because he was like a genuine person that wasn't into treating women like that.
Dusty, for you, what was, towards the beginning or in the middle of your relationship, as far as prior to you guys getting married, when you found out about, what Lindsay had walked through, what was your perspective on that? What were your feelings towards that?
Lindsay's always been very transparent with her journey and her life and all that stuff. And it was harder for me in the beginning because I was not as experienced in relationships as she was. And I kind of was just going through life and having a good time with school and sports and just doing me, always wanting and pursuing relationships. It just never really kind of gravitated like it did when I met Lindsay. And I played hard to get, which apparently was the line and sinker. But yeah, it was always hard to hear, but it never changed how I felt about her and where we were at and where we were going. And I think we were even together for quite some time before you kind of came to the realization that your trip was more than what you
it was several
processed.
Years into our marriage. I had told him about what had happened, but I didn't realize the severity of it. Like I didn't start calling it what we talk about now until we had 2 kids already. So pretty crazy.
Absolutely. So Lindsay, for you, as you guys continued in your dating relationship, for you, was it hard? Even if he was genuine, even if he was different, was it hard for you to trust in that love, in that pursuit? Did you question your identity? What did that look like for you?
What's so wild in thinking about all of this and preparing for this is that I didn't actually question it at all. It just felt so normal and like it was right. And it all, to be honest, happened really fast. Yeah. So I don't think I even had time to question whether or not he was genuine. Yeah. I just knew he was complete polar opposite of what I had experienced. And for me, that was the thing that solidified not having any doubts. I think that it wasn't until much, much later, and this marriages probably struggle with this to this day, is that you start thinking like, is this for real? Because this feels like a fantasy, or what bomb is going to drop? Yeah. Like I'm not worthy of like this kind of love. So why is it even here? Yeah. It wasn't until like probably more recently in the last couple of years that I would start thinking like that.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it was all, gushy and in love and which we still are, but it was, I guess what I'm trying to say is it was fast, it was different, and it just was like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It made me realize that people like that do exist. And that looking back on it now, it's like, I think a lot of Christians or even just people in general, if you're listening to this, like God really moves when you don't realize it. And he also moves when he chooses.
Yep.
Not when you've cleaned up and become perfect. And a lot of girls I see, Christian girls are, preparing themselves for their husbands. And I love that. When I see that, I'm like, that's beautiful. I was not doing that. I was back in the bar scene. In fact, we met in a bar. Not how you would kind of see in the movies, but we met through a mutual friend. But I think it was my message from the Lord that it's time.
Yeah.
It's time for your life to turn around. And instead of bringing you consequences, I'm going to bring you a blessing.
Yeah.
And that's a hard story for me to preach because I don't want people who are caught up in stuff to be like, oh, God's going to bless me in the midst of this.
Right.
I think God had tried several things and they hadn't worked. And so in the midst of that, I received almost like my destiny.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and I think it's beautiful too for ladies that are listening or watching and feeling like, but it's too late for my story, or I've had too many relationships, or I've made too many mistakes. Like, how could I ever have, what Lindsay and Dusty have? And it's like, it's by God's grace. It's by his goodness. It's by his faithfulness. And it isn't like you said, anything that you've earned. And isn't that how it is with the Lord? It isn't about that we have to make everything perfect before we get to show up for our lives. He meets us right where we're at. So I love that.
And
go ahead.
I may disagree with this, but it's so funny. 5 minutes earlier or later, we wouldn't have met.
Oh, I love that.
And God is, he orchestrates everything. And I believe that he, that night was pivotal in both of our lives and our children's lives and our children's lives. Like, you don't realize, I hear people preach all the time, like, there are certain places that God's not. And I'm like, I don't believe that. I believe that God's everywhere. And if you are a child of God, he's with you wherever you are.
Yep.
Even in all of my situations, even on that trip, even the most awful of situations, like God is right there orchestrating every single second.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to have you guys give a little piece of advice here, and you're both going to speak to this question. You're going to speak to the girl who's where Lindsay was. Okay, so Lindsay, from your perspective, what piece of advice would you give her? What piece of encouragement would you give her if she is asking herself if it's too late, if her story is too broken? What would you say? And then Dusty, I want you to respond also from the male's perspective, what you would speak into her as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there was probably a lot I would say, but ultimately, don't lose who you know you are in your very core.
Yeah.
For what looks like love or what seems like somebody might be giving you attention. There's so much more to a relationship than just attention.
Yeah.
And I think I would say continue to pray and wait, even though it's really hard to wait on the Lord. He is really, really good. And I wish I would have waited instead of pursuing things that I had no business pursuing.
Yeah.
But, and God's not a time waster. He redeems your time. We waste our time, but he redeems it. And I think that I would say what I did when I was, 22 years old, somewhere along the line of my up and down hills and valleys, I was pursuing the Lord pretty hard in that moment. And I wrote out a list of what I would want in a husband. And I believe that there was like 22 things on there.
Yeah.
And I so wish I could find this list, because he is every single thing on there. And these are not like super deep things.
Yeah.
Some of them were, but some of them were super practical things. And it just, God saw that and he's like, oh, I already have this person for you, you know? So I think, you know, really knowing what you want, what you're willing to settle for and not settle for, what you're willing to meet in the middle on, and just really waiting and praying. And even though it sounds old fashioned, like I had a friend of mine that told me she's single and newly separated, but she said that dating right now in 2021, now 2022, is awful.
Yeah.
And there's no sense of like personal connection. Everything is Messenger, Instagram. Nothing is this like face to face at first. And I just told her I just could not imagine that. We're from a whole different generation where, yes, we as soon as we got each other's numbers and that we were calling all the time. He was calling me all the time. We were hearing voices. Yes, we were texting too, but it was in person. It was face to face. It was the good, the bad, the ugly. Like it was any time of day, didn't matter, you know, and it wasn't just convenience. It was because we actually liked each other. You know?
Yes. Yes.
3-hour phone calls until 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Just
Yeah.
talking, learning about each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say ultimately, I know I said a lot, but pray, wait, make a list, give it to the Lord, and then continue to put one foot in front of the other, live your life, and just watch when God just like knocks you out of the park. And this is what I've told people before too, because I've had to tell myself this about different situations that I'm praying for or waiting for, is you won't miss it.
Yes.
And even if you do,
Yes.
by the grace of God, he will put you back on the path. Like, and no time is wasted. No time is wasted.
So good.
Yeah.
Okay, Dusty, let's give some man advice to this girl.
Pretend like you're talking to Jazzy, our daughter.
Perfect.
Well, I think acknowledgement is the first thing. Like once you have to be ready to move forward in whatever path you were on. Otherwise, you're just gonna keep, riding the same circles. And then once you acknowledge that, I think you really just kind of have to discipline yourself to not waste your time on somebody that isn't actually into you, or they're into you just for a moment. Like I said, or like she said, with just the way the world is right now, I mean, all you got to do is swipe left or right, and I don't know which one means which.
Yeah.
But better not know which one means.
But everyone just is okay. I'm over you, so now I'm swiping this way to find somebody else. A relationship is more than that. A relationship is two ways. It's deep. It's more than intimacy. It's more than spiritual. It's more than physical. It's all of you. And so you got to find somebody and want to find somebody that reciprocates your same passion. It's not a race to get into bed. It's not a race to, get married. Find somebody that's your friend, find somebody that's your partner, find somebody that shares the same values as you. And if they don't, get out of town and don't waste your time. 3 weeks of fun is not worth the heartache and the struggle of starting over.
Yeah.
So I would think that just, hold tight. Lindsay's my first long-term relationship. Before I met her, I mean, I was only in a relationship, I think, for about 3 months. And I went on dates and I had opportunities, but it's weird to, like, even without ever meeting them, if I looked at them, I wanted to be able to see them as my spouse.
Yeah.
Before I even wasted my time.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, okay, you're really into me, but I don't like like, just no thanks, or like, I don't see it. So even before talking to somebody, I'd look at them and be like, oh yeah, I could see that. Otherwise, why, why waste your time? I mean, everyone wants fun, right? And fun is great, but life is supposed to be fun.
Life is not always fun, though.
It is, but if you don't have that partner that's gonna ride the ups and downs with you, then I mean, you're gonna be in a world of pain and just annoyed and mad and just upset and broken relationships. So I would,
be disciplined. I heard, like he said, be disciplined to like know what you want. And I think just keep also working on yourself. The infamous line from the movie, Jerry Maguire, you complete me. And it was a beautiful moment. We all cried, but really your spouse is not meant to complete you. I believe you're meant to complement each other. And God created Adam. He definitely knew that he would be alone. And so he created Eve, but they were two complete whole people on their own, and God made them how they were meant to be. And they both had different skills and different emotional things that they would bring to the table. And if you're searching for your wholeness and your affirmation, your completeness in a person, they're going to let you down, no matter how cool they are, no matter how amazing Dusty is. Like, if I don't have my affirmation and my wholeness in the Lord first, which is not easy. It's a struggle, because as humans, I think we crave that which what we can see, touch, feel.
Right.
But a relationship is not based on feeling. Like, I think that's what's wrong with the world today, is that we say, well, if I don't feel this anymore, then it must not be right. Or I feel bored, so I'm going to go do something else. And we're teaching our kids this. We're teaching them by being stimulated all the time, by things being exciting all the time. There is such a beauty in being bored, being monotonous, being mundane. And our life is far from mundane, but I actually think that now I cherish those moments where there's nothing happening, because the Lord has blessed us with so much. I have to also stay grounded in the moments that are seemingly nothing, or else I will crave that excitement at all times. And it actually is a trauma victim's response to life post healing, because it's like a forever journey of healing, right? Is that ultimately we crave excitement, and we want things to be busy. Distraction. And it's funny, because during several opportunities the last couple of years, the Lord has given me to be down, whether it was post-surgery, post having babies, and then also then more recently with like quarantine and COVID and not working at all. That was so hard for me, but I faced it head on. We faced it head on. And this is the problem with Westernized culture, is that we are so distracted. And that is what I would say the root problem of marriage is. If you got really down to the nitty gritty, sure, it's infidelity, money struggles, distractions from circumstances in your life, grief, healing from trauma, all these things like packaged together. But ultimately, if that person is not a whole person, then you can't love somebody else if you don't first love yourself. The Bible says it,
That's so good. I mean, think about Bachelor and Bachelorette, and you think about the main focus is how extravagant these and adventurous these dates can be, as opposed to like what it looks like to go to the grocery store or to wipe baby's bottoms, or all the things that come with the real everyday mundane life that choosing a partner actually looks like. I love that. So it's interesting that you mentioned, we can't go off of our feelings. So I kind of want to pivot now into what it looks like to choose your spouse especially pandemic and all the things that are going on, what does it look like for you guys to be able to navigate marriage? What has it looked like for you guys to choose each other? Talk a little bit from both of your perspectives on that.
Yeah. Who wants to go first? I think there's one thing that people have said, have observed about us. You even said it in one of you and I's conversations. And then I actually just was with somebody yesterday that said it super randomly. And I was like, that's interesting. We're doing a marriage podcast like tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm glad that that is your perspective of us. She said, she's like, you guys just date really well. And I said, I think that we live in a culture that everything's, I like to take pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I like to take pretty pictures. And it's just like a little passion of mine. I do not want to become a photographer, but I like to take pictures, and I like to, I think it's a very deep, spiritual, like you're freezing time.
Yeah.
And I have a very bad memory sometimes. I have a really good memory on some things and a bad memory on some other things. And so looking back over what we've done and looking at pictures of our kids and just capturing moments, for me is huge.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that, and I'm going somewhere with this, the fact that she's like, you guys post like the most amazing pictures and all these dates you go on. And I said, what's funny is that people might assume that in the back of their mind, they're like, oh, I bet it wasn't that perfect, or that's just the picture. I bet one day we're going to find out they have a terrible relationship, or they can't be that. And I want to say to that is that, yes, we have struggled. Our dates don't always go fantastic or perfect. We have hard conversations. We argue, we fight. But for me, those are real. Like when I put something out there, I'm a very transparent person, but when I put something out there for all the world to see, for me, it has to be genuine and it can't be fake.
Yeah,
it can't, because I cannot walk around consciously knowing that I'm actually at odds with this person, but I just posted this amazing picture.
right.
It's different with kids. You're always at odds with your kids, and you're
come on, smile
them anyway. Like,
Those pictures are fake.
I wanna strangle them, and then I'm like, I love them so much. But and that's how God feels about us, I think too. But I think that the main thing that people have said to us, and I've been kind of keeping my ears perked ever since you asked us to do this, almost like 9 months ago, is that we do date really well. And I don't know why. I know that we just like to do things. Both of us have been created to do things. We like going places. We like experiencing things. And when we also like the simple, mundane home dates as well, just every night with each other. I'll let him talk more about that. But I think that another factor in that could be our relationship was so like hard and fast that we did not spend 2 years courting each other. We were instant family. We were pregnant after 2 months. We were getting ready for a baby. We got married, official wedding after we already had a baby, and that's normal these days. That's not out of the ordinary. But we definitely, I feel like we're making up for lost time or something. Like we're really doing all the things. COVID could have driven it too. The quarantine, we were home for so long. I feel like afterwards, now we're like, let's go travel the world. Let's go see everything while we can. But yeah, I think that that's something that couples are lacking, is that they forget to date. And he has some good advice, about that. But
when you get married, you choose your partner, and then every day you get to choose that partner again and again and again.
Good advice.
And even though the word choose could lead to the choice to not choose, but that's not the option. You get to just choose every day. So, I wake up every single day, even if I go to bed annoyed because she falls asleep on me, or like it's just I'm just annoyed. I choose her every single day, and I go through every single day looking for the opportunity to spend time with her and looking forward to the end of the day when the kids are in bed, when then we get to then spend time together again. I think we were married several years, or maybe a handful of years, before we really started finding focused time together, because you get so wrapped up in, like, you know, kids and work and starting businesses and stuff. And I think it was just Tuesday and Thursday nights we started date nights, and she wouldn't come home till like 10 or 11 o'clock at night for dance. And then we'd have dinner and we'd watch a movie and stay up till like 3 o'clock in the morning drinking wine. And it just, the next day was always painful. But those days were something to look forward to, the Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then as just time has evolved, we have grown to just want to do more and more and more. So, you know, we do choose to spend time with each other every single day. And even in the days where we're annoyed with each other, I mean, she could be mad at me or I could be mad at her, and she'd be like, hey, we have like an hour and a half window. Let's go get some food and hang out. And I'm like, okay, let's go. And yeah, and, you know, with both sides, you know, a relationship is like an investment. You have to make deposits before you can ever make a withdrawal.
Yeah.
So if you don't have anything in the bank, they won't give you anything if you want it. They'll tell you to, you know, take a hike. So I've just been programmed, and maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm a unicorn. But I don't know how not to pursue my wife, even in the most frustrating moments. I remember a time this summer, we were at an M's game or something. I think we had a couple of days where we just kept getting annoyed at each other. And, you know, you try to put up a wall and be like, I'm mad. But after time passes, you're just like, I told you, I was like, I don't know how not to pursue you, because I want to spend time with you. I want to just spend all of our time together. And maybe that is a trauma from our relationship starting so quick and we didn't get to do anything. So now we're like, peace out, kids. We're like, we're out of here.
Our kids go, Jazzy, especially our daughter, is like, you're going on another date?
That's a good
one. She goes, what about us? Don't you love us? And I said to her, I actually want to tell you something. You will appreciate this one day. I was like, would you rather have, we actually asked both our oldest and our middle this, we said, would you rather have parents that love each other and date, and it kind of makes you uncomfortable sometimes and grosses you out, or you have to spend a little time on your own figuring out how to just be?
Yeah.
Or would you rather have a relationship that's broken? Yeah. Or, you know, I was like, just because we got married doesn't mean we can't still date.
Yep.
And we will want the same thing for you guys. Yep. We want to model that for you guys. I've had people tell me before, man, you must have the best babysitters, and we don't have babysitters, and can we have yours? And I'm like, no, you can't, first of all. But I've got a long list, so you can have a couple of them if you'd like. But what I want to say to that is, some people get annoyed or frustrated if they don't have the finances. They're like, well, I don't want to pay a babysitter. And I'm like, okay, but you're not just paying a babysitter. You're investing in your marriage.
Yep.
And then your kids, they're going to be okay. They're actually going to love it, depending on the babysitter that you get. Yeah. We went through a season where Jazzy was excited when we'd leave, because she's like, yay, peace out, guys, you know? So, you know, you just have to, they have to get used to it. If that's not a habit for them, it might be hard at first, and it might be hard to leave babies or whatever, but we actually made it very, very clear to each other and our families in the very beginning of our marriage. We're like, we want time away, and we will drop the baby to you. And my mom and dad have been great too. They've, you know, in the earlier parts of our marriage, they were taking the kids overnight all the time for us. And we still do that. You know, it's a little more expensive now. We hire the babysitter now, but you know, for me, it's worth it. It's worth it for him. He'll tell people this. He gets a completely different version of me, not because I'm fake in real life, but it's because we've got a lot of responsibility. My mind is kind of always going with what we need to be doing to have successful businesses and to be good bosses, be good workers, be good parents. We fail miserably multiple times a week, but we're always moving. It's just it's a cycle, right? But when we go away or go on a date, depending on what season of life we're in, I'm much more relaxed and I'm there for him and I'm focused and I'm concentrated, and it's a different feel, and we come back refreshed, most of the time. I would say 99.9% of the time. And then we've made a habit too that when we are coming back, or even when we're on that date, we're also setting the next one. It's like it's a schedule thing. We have to, or else time passes and you're like, it's been 3 months since we've gone on a date. For us, it's only been a week. We were just on a date and we're going on one today. You have to know what fuels your relationship. You really do. And for us, that's what fuels our relationship.
What would you say to the couple? Maybe one spouse is interested in carving out that time, making it happen, and the other one just isn't sure whether it's worth it. And either one of you can answer to this, but it's so nice that you guys are united in that, but sometimes it's not always that way. So what would you encourage them?
What would your advice be? Gosh, I think it takes a little bit of getting used to.
Yeah.
Like he said, you can't make a withdrawal if you don't have a deposit. So guys, like if your intimacy life isn't really where you want it to be,
put forth some effort,
like clean the kitchen, put the kids to bed early, open a bottle of wine. Well, if you don't drink, sorry if that's offensive, but put on a movie. We've recently, in the last couple of years, probably because of COVID, again, I blame everything on that, but we are really addicted to Netflix, series and different things we can watch together. I really just, that's a difficult answer. There's no right answer, but I would say just try it. What's the harm in trying it? And if it's the girl that doesn't want to do, which I can't imagine a girl not wanting to be dated, but if it's the woman in the relationship that doesn't want to do it, just really maybe you're having a hard time leaving your kids or again paying the babysitter or whatever, just do it. We have found that it's really the key and the secret to all of it. We've really tried to encourage our married couple friends. Your kids came after your relationship. Yes, you love your kids, but if there's no relationship, your kids will suffer even more. So why not? They're going to be okay. They most likely won't remember that you left them a couple times, but I really believe that it's the key.
Yes.
One of the keys to a successful relationship.
Well, I think it's just small things too. Don't bring your phone to the couch. They're in bed.
Sorry.
That's what you do, and I have to take it away from you. And you just have to make that choice. I think you have to choose. Do you care about your relationship, or do you care more about, Twitter and Instagram or SportsCenter? I would love to watch SportsCenter every single night, but it gives her anxiety, so I watch it when she falls asleep, or I just check it later. There's 100 movies that I would love to watch that she has zero interest in. So ultimately, my desire isn't what's most important. It's our connection, because like it or not, depending on who kicks the bucket first, we're tied together for the next 40, 50 years, unless somebody cuts somebody's brake line. And SportsCenter is going to come and go. Movies are going to come and go. Twitter is going to come and go. Just who cares? Choose the partner. And if one person is more adventurous than the other, start small. Just a movie at night. Talk about it, plan it. Some people don't process things well, in the moment, but hey, this is what we're doing. And then, walls go up and be hey, on Tuesday night, there's a new movie coming out. Can we sit down and watch it together?
Yeah.
You know, that way you can wrap your head around it.
Yeah.
And if something comes up, then something comes up. That's fine. You try again another day, but you got to make that priority, and you got to want to. I think that's it. Like, I mean, I don't want to be married to somebody I don't like. I don't want to be married to somebody that doesn't want to do anything with me, or I want to be married to somebody that is in a different room playing video games and somebody else is out there and, you know, playing on their phone
That's
or
not a
something like that.
relationship.
So, I mean,
That's a roommate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a relationship.
Yeah.
Even today, as we're preparing for this, I was actually working out this morning, and the guy that I work out with, he's absolutely crazy. His name, you know, it's Beachbody, Sean T.
I know him. Yes,
So
he's crazy.
he says to you, you know, the pep talk at the end, because you've just done the most excruciating workout ever. And he's like, stay committed, or stay connected to your commitment, or no, stay committed to your connection. Stay committed to your connection. And he said that about working out, because, you know, you get in a rut where you just don't do it today, and then you don't do it again tomorrow. And then you're all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's been so long.
Yeah.
For me, I'm so committed to my connection that I'm going to make that space to do it wherever we need, whatever each other needs, we make that connection. And we also communicate a lot about what those expectations are.
Yep.
Even if they're not being met, even if there's disappointment, even if, you know, whatever. But I loved what Sean T said. I thought it was marriage advice too. Like, stay committed to your connection. And that's why I say regularly go back and look at the faithfulness of the Lord in your life, and also just the way that you guys met, the way, all the things that, all the good things that have happened in your relationship, and recall those.
Yeah.
Look at pictures if you need to.
Yeah.
I have tons for that reason. You look at moments, because sometimes you think your life is so hard for a season. Even going back and looking at pictures from 2020, I was doing this yesterday as I was putting together some stuff for my son's slideshow, and I was looking at pictures from 2020, and I was like, you know, we all thought that was the most horrific thing ever, and for some it was.
Yeah.
So I'm not discrediting that, but I took pictures of the happy moments we were having, and that's all I remember from it. That's all I remember, and that's, I think, what we do not do well enough as a society and marriage is we do not record the happy moments. We keep a laundry list of all the things that are wrong, or all the things we wish we would change about this person. You know, I was thinking about marriages and people that grow as they get older, and they change and they shift, and sometimes that causes division in a relationship. But sometimes the woman is like, I just wish this were different or that were different, so I'm gonna pray until I see that change.
Right.
I don't have specific examples about what that could be right this second, because that could be so many different things, but there are some things that are actually just part of who God has created them to be, that actually can't change. And maybe they can grow, or they could, you know, it could be not as dominant, but there's a reason why God called you to be their spouse, because you can help soften those things or whatever. But I think we spend so much time trying to change our partner that we don't spend enough time just embracing who they are and seeing them as God sees them.
Yep.
People, unless they know us really well, you don't realize that Dusty and I are complete polar opposites.
Yeah.
On paper, our marriage should not work. But by grace and who God has created both of us to be, there's a balance there.
Yeah.
For my craziness, he's super even keeled and level headed.
Yeah.
For his more reserved, I'm more outgoing and social.
Yeah.
You know, there's just so many different things that I don't think I could be married to somebody as outgoing as me. We'd be in competition with each other the entire time. And that's where I don't necessarily agree with all of the aspects of putting together an online dating profile that says all these things that you are, and you're trying to be matched with somebody else that might be these same exact things. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
in some cases, not in all cases. There's exceptions to every rule. But I think there's just so much to be said about embracing the person that God has chosen for you and really putting in the work to grow together.
Yeah.
Even when it's hard. There's been moments, and I'm ashamed to say it, where I have thought maybe our life would look different if I would have chosen somebody else, or maybe the reason why we're stuck in this place is because of me. Maybe I'm the bad apple here, or whatever. And you just can't think like that. I think one of our pieces that we wrote down, or we wanted to share today, is that life will give you a lot of disappointment. Life will give you a lot of really tough circumstances.
Yep.
You might look at us and go, well, what have you guys gone through? I'm telling you, there was a year of our marriage in 2012, I believe, where outside circumstances were literally coming for us. And it continues. We again in 2017, again in 2020. I mean, it just the enemy will not leave you alone.
Yep.
And if he can get at one, he can build up a wall and get at the other. And then all of a sudden instead of doing life like this, now you're starting to do this.
Yep.
And it takes a big whammy to try to get back on that thing by the grace of God. But I know that we have done a really good job. It's not easy. And I'm telling you, it is so difficult to walk through suffering in a marriage where it may feel like suffering to one person and the other person doesn't see it like that, or whatever, or maybe you're both suffering together and try to navigate how you're reacting. But outside circumstances, i.e. a job, a loss of a loved one, grief, all of these things cannot and should not tear you apart. And if anything, it should drive you to your knees and closer together.
Yeah. So good. Let's talk about that a little bit, with the fact that, scripture talks about that trials will come and the enemy, his job is to kill, steal, and destroy. Yeah. So what can you guys do collectively, spiritually, daily, that it's not foolproof, because the trials will come, but to stay united as you battle those trials together?
Yeah. I think, do you want to talk to that, or do you want me to first? Okay. I think that the stuff we've said already is a great foundation for then when trials come. Yep. If you're already regularly spending time together, sometimes we watch a movie together, and then sometimes he can feel that I'm walking through something, or I can feel that there's something that's happened that day, or we're walking through something, and it ends up being a conversation.
Yeah.
And we are each other's counselor.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't have an answer for me, which for the first several years of our marriage, I thought he didn't care. He was just listening and processing, and I had to learn. Instead of asking God to change him, I had to learn that that's who God gave me to help me process my disappointment. Is that he listens. And then later, sometimes up to a day or two later, gives me encouragement or advice. I think that when you've established already, again, when you've made deposits that have nothing to do with the trials and suffering of life, when you've already made those deposits, when those things happen, you have a bank full of affection and affirmation for each other, and you can run to them. Do I sometimes run to a friend? Absolutely. Is counseling healthy? Absolutely. Is having a pastoral covering over you? Absolutely. But ultimately, I believe that just like God calls himself Wonderful Counselor, Almighty God, Healer, Protector, I believe that God has given that to me in my spouse. And it's not like either of us are naturally that way. We've walked a road that gives us those kind of characteristics as we grow together. And so that would be my advice, is that foolproof your marriage, Fireproof Your Marriage. Remember that movie?
Yeah.
That super cheesy Christian movie that we all went and saw, like with our life group.
There. Yep.
Yeah, we were there.
Yeah.
I really believe in fireproofing your marriage with little things. And it doesn't, see, this is the thing, is you got to understand that this is not me, and we ride around on a cloud and we're always just like, good morning, and here's your meal for the day, and like, oh babe, you're so amazing, and all this. I mean, it's not necessarily like that. It's just life. You're just living it together. And I thought of something that I think at the end of the day, if you're having a hard time dealing with life's trials, whether or not they have anything to do with your marriage, like some of your trials could be because of the relationship, infidelity, finances, disagreement on just moral things, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that if you at the end of the day realize that you're on the same team,
It's good.
you're not on different teams.
Yeah.
Then do not let disappointment divide you, because disappointment and trials and suffering is inevitable. The Bible says we're going to get suffer. We're going to, like, it's promised to us. So you have to, when it comes, and I've learned how to deal with disappointment better than I used to, that you have to understand that this person is on my team.
Yep.
He doesn't want me to be disappointed, even if the disappointment is in something that's happening in our life where I feel like I'm disappointed in him or he's disappointed in me or whatever. Don't let it divide you. Put a wall up. Don't even lay the first brick. It has nothing to do with you two as a couple.
Yeah.
Unless we're talking about something that does have everything to do with you as a couple, then you need to maybe seek some counsel and some pastoral covering and prayer. But I think really just coming down to it, it's you, your spouse, and God.
Yep.
And you are on a 3-headed team. And there should be no division there when that's your focus.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Preach.
I know, right? Drop the mic. Well, we're going to get ready to wrap up, but I don't want to miss, is there any other nuggets that you wanted to highlight or touch on before we wrap up? Because I know that you had some different thoughts. I want to make sure that we do that. Yeah.
I think Dusty and I just really, we could joke all day about like, he always says the secret to a marriage is like also sex. Like that just has to be part of your marriage. Like it really does. And again, you can't make a withdrawal until you've got deposits. So deposits look like practical everyday things. And we don't have a perfect sex life. And that's something that I want to work on. And we are working on, people are tired, you have kids, like, you have schedules, you own businesses, you just want to go to sleep at night. But again, this is why we schedule dates and things away. And we try to, just really pursue each other in that way. But, coming into a marriage from having all of the brokenness that I had prior, sex becomes, and this can be a different conversation, like a part 3, but like sex can become something that is really traumatizing. And even though I don't associate it with the partner that God's given me now, the stuff does come up once in a while, and that he's really done a good job of not taking that personally. But then also just really believing that again, stay committed to your connection, and connection happens in intimacy, and it also happens in all sorts of intimacy, but not just sex. But staying committed to your connection is really the key, and doing kind of whatever it takes for that.
Yeah, I think there's even small things you can do to stay connected. It's funny. I've had a mind shift, and just through how we communicate on our phones. It's funny, my daughter changed her name on my phone to Sexy Babe with a bunch of kissing words. And, and then there's like the profile picture is just her with a kissy face. And so now when she calls or text message, I get like sexy babe.
Yeah.
And kissing emojis. And it's funny because I received that text message and the phone call different than I did when it was just Lindsay. Yeah. And she's got Dusty my love with kissy emojis. And so, before like she'd call and be like, oh crap, what you want now? Or just leave me alone. But now it's just different. And so, when she answers the phone, she's like, hello, Dusty my love. And just different things like that. You got to set yourself up for success. Because if you set yourself up any other way, then, success is an uphill battle. And so if you stop pushing that boulder uphill, it's going to roll back down on you. So, it's just little things. Relationships are as hard as you make them, or as
easy as you make
them. And no relationship is perfect. Like I said, we've been married 17 years and the plan is to be for 40, 50 more. But you got to put forth the work. And there's going to be days that she's totally mad at me for doing something stupid, or I'm going to be mad at her for being ridiculous. But that's just a moment. It's not the entire relationship.
Remember, so Jesus got mad too. Like I just believe that, emotions are, when dealt with in a healthy way, emotions are beautiful, and it's okay to be mad, and it's okay again to be disappointed. And we're even currently walking through something right now where we feel like we have prayed and we have done all the work, we've done the groundwork. What is going on? And it was took its toll, I think, a little bit last spring, because I had felt like it was because something was wrong in our life. Then disappointment really got to me. And I just felt like, man, the grass is probably greener somewhere else, but the grass is greener where you water it. And I just fully believe that. And when you make that choice, love is not a feeling, it's a choice. And I think that when you stay committed to your connection again, and you date, then you've got a recipe for a successful relationship.
So good. So good. Well, I know that everyone are going to want to follow you because you have the pretty pictures, but it's not just the pretty pictures. So how can they do that, Lindsay and Dusty? How can they follow you on social media and connect with you guys?
Well, he is anti-social media, which is a good thing.
Good thing.
Very good thing. My daughter actually had to create a social media account for him, and she posts sometimes and runs it. I'm like, what are you doing? Anyway, mine is my personal one is CooperFam5 on Instagram, and then just Lindsay Cooper on Facebook. But the dance company is Identity Dance _ CO for company, and then the events business is something like Identity E&E. I don't know what I did. I had to do something weird, but it's on there. If you go to my profile on my personal one, all my handles are on there. And so, you can find us. Please friend us. Please follow. Like, I'm not here to, have followers or whatever like that. Like, I don't believe in all that, but if I can be an encouragement to somebody or they see something that gives them hope in their day, then we've done our job,
I love that. And for those of you that are watching or listening or driving or taking care of kids and you're like, I didn't get all that, that's okay. We've got you covered. All the links are in the show notes. Thank you, Lindsay and Dusty, for your transparency, for your vulnerability to be able to share and to just point to God's goodness and faithfulness, even through struggles and hard times. And keep pursuing your marriages, y'all. Keep pursuing your marriages. Take all of this amazing wisdom to heart and put it into practice today.